Good morning, police emergency. How may I assist you?
Good evening and welcome to Ghana Police Watch, Ghana's most watched current affairs program, now showing on the leading TV networks every day of the week. This evening, our focus is the 20th anniversary of Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, also known as Dovvsu, which is a special unit of Ghana Police Service. Dovvsu used to be called WAJU, Women in Juvenile Unit, and we would like to understand the reasons for the change, as well as throw more light on its work. Dovvsu also works closely with the Department of Social Welfare, FIDA, that is the International Federation of Women Lawyers, and key partners such as UNICEF and UNFPA. 20 years is a great milestone, as well as a wonderful opportunity to reflect on some of the critical developments and progress made thus far, identify and engage the challenges in order to build an even more positive future. To mark this special milestone, Ghana Police Watch has produced a short documentary that provides a rare insight into a unique institution that serves Ghana and citizens well. Let's take a look.
He beat me yesterday. Every day is like that. Can be there, then he will slap me. When I did something, he will beat me up. He threatens me every day, he will kill me. I just want to remove myself from here. I went to the police station around 3 o'clock.
AM?
Yeah. Don't have anywhere to go to sleep on the street till daybreak.
I feel in your
12 years.
your baby.
Your name Babiake. His stepfather, Ewo.
Nefe. Minefe. Eyibo.
Barabe.
Minefe.
Erekim.
Erekibo.
These harrowing experiences are reported to Dovvsu because it is specially mandated to investigate all offenses against the vulnerable in the society, especially women and children. The issues that are reported to Dovvsu do not just border around physical violence against women and children, but also extends into gender-based bullying, psychological violence, and lack of commitment to parental responsibility.
Me meeting, but already me kitama two boys dada. On papa show. Osi owoyere. Oso owoye born ni honum, oni oba ne jai. Into maame de nkola no abrɛ no into no hwɛ nkola no ye nante be say 3 months na nyinsen bae me kotwa scan na it was 1 month 2 weeks osade nti na yesi nyinsen na ye 1 month 2 weeks nti na nyo no hwɛ me nyinsen nti wonje on send me a disika posi dabi o ma me call hospital osi dabi nyinsen na nyo ne dia nti me fa nko baby kwa me fa na mpa me nkonko nkacha me nye abortion da na ye onu a na nye me nti so onu se nye onu nyi me on there on try at the right time no obeba me parents friend na no didi o matem obedidi matem sa aba me ma forget earlier no be kacha me busu afo se me wo ba on sha akola no nti opeba be ma daddy ye onu ma 1 month asa no ba betu akola ndi nyi na ntu ma me frɛ o mi a misika akola na tade onto no function ne fantu akola ne din oyiye mi abre nti me chiri ba na ma miska na me de kotoy ene e de tu akola ndi.
Dovvsu was created in October 1998 in response to the increasing number of cases involving abuse in domestic relationships, especially against women and children. Challenges were many, but progress was made to ensure that crucial issues that confronted significant numbers of citizens were addressed.
The various police stations were looking at domestic violence and victim support related cases as family matters. At times they would even ask the victim to go and settle with the family members. There was a case where a victim died. A 3-year-old was defiled by her father. And then the mother had then gone to hospital to deliver a baby. And this man defiled his own daughter. And when we sent the case to court, I think the second week the girl died. So the man was then lying along the line, but when the baby died, he owned up, and the marriage came to an end. We were not happy, but then we took consolation in the fact that the man came out to tell the facts of the case.
Two events that spurred on the advocates for a national policy on gender-based violence in Ghana was the 4th World Conference on Women in Beijing, China in 1995, which empowered women organizations in Africa and elsewhere, and the unfortunate serial murders of women in Ghana during the late 1990s.
Make robbery and theft unattractive. Help stop the robbers and thieves. They come only to steal and deprive you of your valuable property. Did you know that your stolen items are sold cheaply to unsuspecting buyers? Do not make your home or workplace an easy target for robbers and thieves. Protect your property. Secure your electronic gadgets such as TV sets, ghetto blasters, laptop computers, mobile phones, and other valuables by marking them. Permanently mark your items with your name or a unique symbol. This will serve as a disincentive to thieves. Take pictures of your items and write down their serial and model numbers, as well as keep purchase receipts of your property. Also know the special ID number on your mobile phone, tablet or iPad, and remember to inscribe a unique mark on your items. Your ID marks, photographs, receipts, model and serial numbers, and special ID numbers of your mobile devices will help the police to retrieve your items in case they are stolen. Fit your doors with quality locks and secure your windows. Install CCTV cameras if you can afford them and make sure they are working properly. It helps the police to arrest thieves. Know your neighbors and develop a good rapport with them so that you can assist one another in the event of a robbery attack. Do not resist or fight back when robbers demand for your money or other valuables. You may be harmed or killed if you resist. In the event of a robbery, do not touch things around before you call the police. Thieves always leave clues at the scene. This may help in tracing them. Call the police emergency lines on 191 toll-free on all networks and 18555 on Vodafone and MTN for help.
You were out there on the streets with the women.
There was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of pent-up anger amongst the women. And so there was a sisters coalition that, emerged as a result of, this situation. And they were able to mobilize women from all at that time, the 10 regions of the country. Right. We came down, we marched, everybody was in red. And I believe the song that we used to sing was When Yenia Breko. So I believe that song has stuck, and we use it every time, when we need to advocate for, some form of, reforms or legislation to empower women. And so we did that, and I had, my little, recorder with me and my notepad, and I was part of the whole process. For me, I think it was a whole, education for me. It made me quite aware also of the issue of women's rights. Women's issues were seen as a soft issue, really. I think that was what converted me, to women's rights, to really fighting for the cause of women. And I really saw that we needed to really push, the policymakers to really be more active when it comes to protecting women's rights.
FIDA. Members from FIDA and other NGOs moved to the police headquarters at the time to see the Inspector General of Police to do something about it.
President Kufuor then came up with a Domestic Violence, Act. So there was a Domestic Violence Act that was passed, and that was, the beginning of, a lot of things good things for the women. I always get teary when I start, talking about this, so my tissue is missing. There was a very uneven playing ground. Yeah. Some people had it quite good, some others had it quite bad. And the fact that you didn't see a lot of push coming from policymakers, and even if it was coming, it was very slow in coming. And so for a woman to be transformed, or a woman who doesn't have that kind of, privileged background, to really, transform herself, it takes a very long time. She can't, pull up herself by her own bootstraps. Someone has to actually offer her, a rope to really, climb that rope and come out of the situation. Yeah. And if that person is, or whoever has to do it is not doing the job, it means she gets stuck, at the bottom. And we always say that when it comes to development, you need both genders, both male and female, need to be present because they both have different perspectives. And for both of them, joining together to work, actually, helps us, achieve or attain the kind of development goals that we've been working towards. Yeah. So it's very, very important, a very important area for me. It doesn't give you much money, and which you would really love to, but at least it gives you a sort of satisfaction, that a sense of fulfillment that I've been able to help somebody to actually, fight for her rights and to improve her livelihood.
The first case we handled, it wasn't easy. So we found a strategy of discussing with the various police stations, whereby when someone reports the case to them, then they will accompany the person to our place or call us for us to go and pick the victim. So that's how WAJU, that's a Women and Juvenile Unit, was set up. So it was solely for women and children related cases. They had to train people to understand what domestic violence is. What is domestic violence? Why domestic violence? How do we handle it? So a police station had to be set up to handle such cases.
It transpires that one particular incident dramatically made the case for changing the name of the unit from WAJU to Dovvsu. A domestic incident in McCarthy Hill, just outside Accra, assumed national significance.
A woman sharpened the knife, and when the husband went under the shower, she went and cut off the private part of the man. So the man used some piece of cloth to cover himself and drove all the way from McCarthy Hill to the police station, the ministry's police station. There were similar cases where women had beaten their husbands at the workplace because of something they felt was wrong. So we had to include men. So men couldn't report the cases. They were still reporting to the police stations. So go to WAJU. So it's for women. You go there. Maybe say go there. You go and report. They come and their cases might not be handled the way they wanted, because they will come and see all women sitting there, and they say, "Hey, I beat a woman. The woman also beat me back, and I'm coming to report to women." They might not look at my case.
There are issues, that men also, are confronted with, and we can't, hide that. And the fact that we need to, we are talking about gender equality. So that's like the Article 17 of our Constitution says, 1 and 2. You cannot discriminate against anybody based on the person's gender, based on the person's race, person's ethnicity, color, creed, religion, and all that. Yeah. So it was very important that they captured, some of the issues that other sex or male gender also, are confronted with. Yeah. I must say that a lot of, training has gone on for Dovvsu, both within internally as well as from civil society organizations. Sometimes when donor partners would ask if you want to train, I mean, what's the essence of training? If we didn't have Dovvsu, then we wouldn't have been able to take, domestic violence from the private, realm into the public realm. Because without that, you'd find that when you go report cases about, domestic violence, the first thing the police will say, well, why can't you resolve this at home? Even though sometimes you tend to get that now there is a unit that women can walk into, and a unit which is quite staffed with quite a lot of more women than men, and which makes it a bit more, easier for a woman to be able to speak to another woman.
More accommodating.
Exactly. You see, so for me, I think that Dovvsu has really done a lot more for our society in trying to strengthen protection measures for women and girls who suffer, from gender-based violence. I also think that by having Dovvsu, they are mandated now to actually, provide services, for women and girls. Now they can't hide under the fact that, this is a family issue, and why don't you resolve this at home? So I think that Dovvsu has, come up, quite a long way. Now they have even a whole, software that generates data, telling us the kind of the trends of the cases. And for us, working with Dovvsu, we are even now advocating for Dovvsu to actually include, persons with disabilities. And this is both sides, for women and girls, because we want to see the trend and the pattern of violence that they also are confronted with. And I must say, fortunately for, Dovvsu, UNFPA has been, one of their main supporters and has, gone ahead to do this. And right now, they actually, rolling this on a pilot basis in 19 districts. And they're going to do it nationwide after they've done the test and then been able to, perceive or identify the gaps and then bridge those gaps.
Okay.
Kofi is arrested for committing a crime. He is taken to the police station where he writes a statement and held in custody pending further investigations. The police can only detain a suspect for 48 hours. Kofi's uncle comes in to secure him bail. Uncle accepts a bail bond of 500 Ghana cedis, which he will pay to the courts should Kofi not present himself to the court when requested.
Should I pay for the bail?
No, you don't pay the police. Bail is free. Only make sure Kofi presents himself to the appointed authority at the appointed place, date and time. Don't pay for bail. Bail is free.
Our former IGP, Patrick Champon, changed the name from Waju to Dovvsu.
There are special dynamics that inform the pioneering work of Dovvsu. Public education goes hand in hand with application of the law.
Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit is a unit under the Criminal Investigation Department. Dovvsu officers work under the Director General CID. My interest in domestic violence cases is that officers should be in a position to handle cases very well. You realize that we are moving from the manual way of investigation to the electronic way. So our officers will also have to be ahead of some of these things to be able to handle cases very well. By middle of next month, we are putting together digital forensics lab, mainly because of online tag trafficking and online child exploitation. Our inability to look at areas where we have to use digital forensics as part of our investigation has also hampered our investigation processes. So getting the lab will go a long way to enhance our investigative processes in our effort to build up good evidence so that perpetrators of these crimes will face justice.
Dovvsu is now spreading its tentacles across the country as the demand for its services increase. Dovvsu's work has over the years had a cross-cutting effect on so many other sectors of social development and rights protection. Collaboration, particularly information sharing, has become the order of the day. Dovvsu's documents, themselves supported by partners, have been widely used as key reference to address issues of gender-based violence in reproduction health and rights. These documents include a handbook spelling out the protocols and procedures to report cases to Dovvsu, protocol and codified handbook for case management of domestic and sexual and gender-based violence, and the influential manual on gender-based violence, reproductive health and rights. The role of partners have been so vital to Dovvsu, including support for its operations, vital information share that enhances its effectiveness, as well as training and capacity building in general. We spoke to the country director of UNICEF, a key partner.
Our main support has been in relation to capacity building of police officers. We have trained the police officers on how to manage cases in a child-friendly and gender-sensitive way. Indeed, we will be establishing very soon a child protection digital forensics lab, so that those cases can be investigated effectively and children and women can be better protected. But first, Dovvsu has been, really doing a fantastic job on the ground, and what we would like to see is more Dovvsu staff present in all districts of Ghana. We would like to encourage that. Of course, this means additional resources to be allocated, but it's an investment that's worth it. Well, one bottleneck we're facing in Ghana is when victims of sexual abuse go to hospitals or to see a doctor for a medical examination, which is important because that medical report is needed for the judge to follow up on the case, is that they have to pay at least minimum 50 cedis, up to 100 cedis or more. That should not be the case, because if you have a girl from a poor family, she would not be able to afford such a medical report, and the case will not be reported, and the perpetrator will continue to be free, and this will continue. So we have to make sure that we all work together, to put an end to these fees, so that all cases, are processed and perpetrators are arrested.
UNFPA is also a key partner.
One major part of our mandate is the issues of sexual and gender-based violence, which falls right within the purview of Dovvsu. So over time, we have been partners with Dovvsu in different ways, and I believe that the partnership has blossomed over time, and we're happy that Dovvsu have come this far. So we've been supporting ourselves, but we prefer to call it a partnership, and it's been good so far. We work together to eliminate, to try as much as possible to eliminate all forms of sexual and gender-based violence in the country, and particularly the issues of domestic violence and intimate partner violence. Perhaps much more importantly is the fact that we need to provide information for Dovvsu officers, for police officers, so that they can do their job. So you can call it information, but also you might also want to call it education. So one major plank of our partnership has been that we have facilitated trainings for Dovvsu officers. A couple of months ago, we actually had a training for the Police Management Board, that is from the Inspector General himself all the way down. Beyond training, we have also gone ahead to also provide actually physical support in terms of kitting the offices. There are some of the offices that we have had to provide support in terms of equipment.
Key partners have also provided and extended facilities that are essential to the work of Dovvsu. Recently, a response center has been opened at the Ghana Police Hospital in Accra.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the biggest achievements of Dovvsu?
Well, I say that for the fact that Dovvsu is now present in about 116 districts, and the fact that Dovvsu is able to conduct its own, investigations, do its own prosecutions, the fact that Dovvsu can now tell us, give us data, let us know what is happening. We can tell a story from the data that these are the kind of cases that is happening. This is the kind of trend that we are experiencing, as a country. The Minister of Gender can go to, the UN and can actually come up with, figures telling us what is happening, in our system. For me, it's something that Dovvsu has, achieved and done pretty well. The fact that Dovvsu can even go outside this country and set up even Dovvsus in other countries. I mean, earlier on in this year, there was, in the newspaper of a lady officer who had gone to, I believe it was Ethiopia or so, and she had, Somalia, and she was able to set up, a similar unit in Somalia where women could now come in to report cases. It is a place where people come to learn from. You have other African countries coming to study what we are doing in Ghana, and that is usually the same for Africa or for Ghana. Really, we are always setting, trailing. What do you say? Blaze trail. How do you say? Trail blazing. Trailblazer. Yes. We're always trailblazing. Yes. And so when things happen and people are not too sure of what's happening with Ghana, people tend to see, this can be Ghana. Ghana has always set a pace. Yes. So for me, I think that those are the things that Dovvsu has done well. The fact that women can, walk into a police station, look for Dovvsu and report cases in itself is the greatest achievement.
But you also appreciate that there are certainly lots of challenges that they're confronted with. How is FIDA supporting them? Okay, so FIDA does a lot of trainings with Dovvsu, and we train because we can't be everywhere. So we train what we call a community response mechanism called paralegals. Now, within every training session, there's always a Dovvsu person that we train. And that is because we want to ensure that the cases that the paralegals receive are responded to, effectively and speedily. And so we always have a Dovvsu person with us. The fact is, right now we even have an SMS platform on one of our projects where that has to do with persons with disabilities, where you have 5 executives on the platform, plus a Dovvsu officer and a lawyer. And so the Dovvsu officer responds to the cases that, the paralegals put up. And for me, I think that's something that Dovvsu could replicate, going forward. But for now, Dovvsu, that kind of a partnership is what we have. And we do a lot of advocacy on behalf of Dovvsu. Dovvsu can't speak sometimes, in certain situations for itself. But we can speak up, on behalf of Dovvsu and calling for, even now we are calling for Dovvsu to have its own, separate unit, come out from under the CID and be separate on itself and be more independent, yes, and be able to get more resources, yes, for itself. So that's the kind of partnership that we have. The resource thing is a real challenge.
It is.
For
Dovvsu. It is because Dovvsu cannot do its work well if, for instance, we don't have vehicles, we don't have shelters, and that's a big thing because the Act tells you that the police or Dovvsu is mandated to take the survivor of violence out of that injurious situation to a place of safety. And so there are no shelters. So how do we expect Dovvsu to really respond effectively? There's also a case of sometimes you tend to have that dismissive attitude from Dovvsu officers when cases come up to them. There are issues where Dovvsu staff have to use their own money to really help survivors, and for me that's a no area. Certainly Dovvsu, how long can the staff be able to keep up with this? They can't always dish out their money out of their own pockets to help survivors of violence. There has to be a fund that they can really access that fund to help survivors of violence.
How do you feel if Dovvsu is taking away or taking out of the CID? It's going to help.
Well, I think for starters, it's the independence is very important. Sometimes you may have Dovvsu officers following a case. The CID takes it over, and maybe the sensitivity that Dovvsu has may be missing under the CID. So even though we sometimes say there's some sort of dismissive attitude with Dovvsu, make no mistake, Dovvsu officers have a certain kind of leaning towards addressing gender-based violence that may be missing from the CID department. So the approach to how to resolve that particular case will be quite different from the approach that the CID would take. And we are also kind of like a bit we are not too sure of how sometimes the prosecution of cases could also end up, because I know in this our sectional context, people are very territorial about their duties, and for CID may take over from Dovvsu. Dovvsu gets missing. So what's the use of having Dovvsu then following the case if CID takes over the roles that Dovvsu has to play? And so for I think for clarity of roles also, I believe that Dovvsu should be separate from the CID. They don't always have to seek approval from CID to make a move. They should be able to be independent, to make their own independent moves, and which I think will go a long way to really help them.
Is this independence of Dovvsu a campaign you're intending to take up?
Actually, many of the civil society organizations are now talking about that. And so you may hear that not only FIDA but the other organizations have spoken quite a lot about the fact that Dovvsu needs to be under the shadow of CID, and Dovvsu has to be its own kind of like it has its own unit, has its own director general, has its own staff. And then of course, because then we realized Dovvsu was seen as a sort place as well for police officers who want to do kind of serious stuff under Dovvsu. I mean, we're kind of like that was a kind of your professional progression. I don't know if you get what I mean, but the fact is Dovvsu is not seen more or less like as a serious business. And if you want to do serious stuff, you go to CID, you go to other places, trafficking and stuff like that. And so we need to take that kind of stereotype away from Dovvsu. Dovvsu is a serious place, and their work is very serious, and we need to really take it seriously.
You mentioned the case of the issue of funding. How can that be resolved?
Well, we would have to have, there's supposed to be actually a domestic violence secretariat that is under the umbrella of the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection. Now, there's supposed to be a domestic violence victim support fund. Now, that fund is, there's nothing particular in it. The money was first put in by the Ministry of Finance. A little bit of donations from donors, but there's nothing much in it. And so that kind of fund should be able to help, Dovvsu as well as help survivors. And the state is obliged to actually, protect the rights of citizens. And so the state also has to make some kind of, money is available. I mean, Dovvsu's budget is very, very, limited. And so we need to be able to increase that budget. And it has to come from the state. It has to come from, individual donor partners. It has to come from philanthropists. It has to come from even, the media, because sometimes you see the media organizing, events and stuff, to sometimes generate money for noble causes. And that's something that I think we need to do. I believe that the wife of the vice president is actually championing the cause of Dovvsu. Dovvsu needs a lot of help coming from not just the state, but from all other walks of life.
And indeed, the funding has to go into lots of areas that Dovvsu is currently challenged. One of them has to do with providing shelter for victims. It doesn't appear that we have enough shelters.
Other NGOs who run shelters, and it's very, very capital intensive running the shelter, and it always has to be quite away from the main city, and security has to be tight and all that. So there's a lot of money that goes into it. Now, within the Domestic Violence Act, there is what we call the occupation orders, and that is an order that is given to prevent the perpetrator from coming quite close to the survivor. Most of the time, women may not be working, and then the main breadwinner is the man. And so perhaps the man is the one who has put up that building, whereas in other jurisdictions, even if the man put up the building, there's a court order. I mean, you are going to lose the house to the woman. But in this case, it's the reverse. I mean, the woman gets thrown out of the house. And so those are the things that we need to be put into place.
The launch of Dovvsu at 20 was also a significant event with memorable speeches, some epitomizing the rich history of Dovvsu. Also mentioned were the challenges, including social and cultural norms, that make Dovvsu's work so important.
20 years of protecting life and property in the domestic setting is an epic achievement. Being a victim of domestic violence and abuse can be very traumatic. It is for this reason that beyond 20 years, Dovvsu is positioning itself to become more accessible and reachable to all manner of persons who are suffering some kind of domestic violence and abuse.
I am delighted to join you this morning as a keynote speaker for this remarkable day commemorating 20 years anniversary of the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, Dovvsu. I wish to commend the Ghana Police Service and the Criminal Investigations Department, the CID in particular, for working tirelessly over the past 20 years and bringing Dovvsu this far. The uncompleted Dovvsu headquarters building, located within the National Police Headquarters, which has for a long time been left without any facelift, is currently under construction and will soon be completed and handed over to Dovvsu for optimal operation and administrative use. The one-stop center of service facility is expected to provide all the services needed by victims of domestic violence. Under the program, a police station and a clinic, shelter, juvenile cell, a social worker, counselor, a cafeteria, amongst others, will be provided under one roof to offer services to reduce the stress victims go through.
On behalf of UNICEF, I would like to join in congratulating the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, better known as Dovvsu, for its 20-year effort to provide age and gender support, sensitive support and services to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. November also marks the anniversary of the adoption of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Article 19 of the CRC stipulates that every child has the right to protection from all forms of violence, abuse, and exploitation.
As we climax the 20th anniversary celebration of Dovvsu, let us continue to support the unit in its efforts to address domestic violence and gender-based violence across the country. We should endeavor to educate the public on the negative effects of these crimes and its adverse effect on national development. It is my fervent hope that the unit will continue to live up to its core mandate and effectively operate as the years go by.
At the closing program for the Dovvsu at 20th anniversary in Accra, there were more insights into Dovvsu's history and mandate. A special dramatic sketch brought home the unit's core messages and won the hearts and minds of the audience. It's then with pleasure that we continue to receive messages of support and goodwill from a broad range of organizations, institutions, and personalities.
Congratulations, Dovvsu. What they've done over the years has been really remarkable. But we also want to say that we all want to support them to do more, and we believe and hope they will do more as well. But congratulations to them. Amazing work they've done, and yeah, we're all here to support what they're doing.
Dovvsu is 20 years, and I'm so excited that we are celebrating 20 years of Dovvsu. We, in my organization, work with Dovvsu actually to talk about the rights of women. Today we've heard that girls under 16 years are being impregnated by ex-men and abandoning them. Dovvsu has a responsibility to look at this. Go to our countryside to find out how many of these girls, after being pregnant and having babies, can go back to school. Dovvsu is also advocating the violence against women in our communities and our homes, and also against men as well. So I think it's important that we recognize the role that Dovvsu have done. Congratulations to Dovvsu for 20 years of good work for Ghana.
I take my hat off for Dovvsu. I agree with what they do, and I'm happy with what they do. I'm only praying that they will get more resources, because all we hear is lack of resources. But everything you want to work, it must have resources. So Dovvsu, congratulations. We are going to push for you to get more resources and keep up with the good work. Kudos.
Congratulations. Keep up the good job. This country needs you. The girls in particular in this country need you. Continue to demonstrate the leadership that you're doing. Well done, and we are all there to support you.
They have been doing quite a lot. Now people are, not reluctant. They are not reluctant to go to Dovvsu to seek help. So I wish Dovvsu the best of luck, and I wish they would achieve more in Ghana.
We do congratulate Dovvsu on their 20 years of achievement. Domestic violence is a scourge, and it affects communities, it affects individuals, it affects economies, it affects everyone. Canada has been very active on suppressing domestic violence, educating about it, building confidence of the communities and of women to reach out to law enforcement when they suffer. And the work of Dovvsu has been absolutely critical in that regard. And I congratulate you on your achievements to date, and keep going, you're needed.
And I want to give them a thumb up and tell them that we traditional rulers are solely behind them, and that we love what they do, we support them, and we wish them well in the future, and that they can always count on us if they need information in our communities and the nation as a whole.
There's a lot of work that is ahead of them, and I wish them, well in being able to effectively work to improve the rights of women in this country.
And that FIDA will be there for them.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
I wish Dovvsu a happy birthday, happy anniversary, happy 20th anniversary, and I wish them many more 20 anniversaries to come.
Happy 20th anniversary, and a big thank you for your wonderful work. We wish and pray for more progress in the years to come. From Ghana Police Watch, we say happy 20th anniversary and a big thank you on behalf of all our viewers for your wonderful work. We wish and pray for more progress in the years to come. Thank you and good night.